Wow. So little time, so much to know, and so many topics here to get to on the Common Man program. First and foremost, it's a tailspin for the soon-to-be Stanley Cup champion Minnesota Wild. They lose their second game of the best-of-7 semifinal series against the Lanch. They're down 2-0. Their backs are against the half wall, or whatever they call it. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Timberwolves look to try to continue their winning ways. They upset second-seeded San Antonio the other night. They're looking to go up 2-0 on the road against San Antonio. Twins continue to play mediocre baseball, yet despite that fact, they're right in the thick of things in the American League Central. Was it a double or triple overtime loss for the Minnesota Frost? So much going on there. And Scotty Scheffler headed to the TPC of the Twin Cities. With all of those topics to get to, let's let the Wheel of Topic decide where to start.
Wheel of Topics!
I still think Scheffler's the biggest story we've heard in Minnesota this year. Personally.
Commons Golf Game.
Well,
What'd you shoot today?
79.
Where'd we play?
Loggers Trail.
Where'd you hit it on one?
Right up the gut.
How far from the greenway?
Well, we started on the back today, and so it was a long way, so I hit a hybrid.
How far from the greenway?
I had 123 to the flag into the wind.
Then what?
I thought I flushed it, and it came up just short. Couldn't get
Then
up and
what?
down. Well, I had him, I went bogey to start. Then I parred 12 and 13. Bogeyed 14. Parred 15. Usually it's the opposite. I'm playing for 4 on 15, but I take 5 every time. It's for me and I think for most people that play the course, it's one of the tougher holes. And 14 is one of the least difficult. I just flip-flopped today, went 5-4. Then I made another bogey. I bogeyed the 2 par 5s on the backside, which is my front. But then I make a brilliant up and down on 17. I 2-putt on 18. So I make the turn at +4, and I par 1, 2, 3, bogey 4, par 5, par 6, 7, bunker trouble. From one bunker, I went a hill or day. I went from one bunker to the next, made 6, made a 5 on 8, but then I knocked in a 25-foot birdie putt to punctuate the day. And the putter was so good today. I only missed one putt inside 10 feet, I think. Everything. I was putting better than 85% of the tour players today. Driver was good until late, but I kept it in play. The hybrids now, I'm starting to figure that out. Craig told me, Master Professional Craig Warren, I said, I'm hitting him low right. What's the problem? This was on a text message. Did I talk about this already? He texts me back and says, slower arms, quicker wrists. And as soon as I started swinging with slower arms and quicker wrists, I started flushing it again. So I'm well on my way. I'll put it this way. I had a better day today than the Wild had last night, and that's not even close. I tweeted out last night, 10 to B, and I had to block a couple of people because they started using the FU stuff. Because those are the people that are so into it and they're so bitter that I had this conversation with Tim, the general manager over at Loggers Trail. He's a season ticket holder for the Wild. And he loves the Minnesota Vikings. He's a huge Vikings root. But he's well-adjusted like I am, where it's like, well, okay, I'd like him to win. It'd be great. But you know what? I got my family, got my career. I got a little of this, a little of that, with the emphasis on the land. If they lose, it's, I go, oh, shucks. But when the people come back and start with, it's because it means it's like the Van Halen song right now. It means everything for them. So it's like, so if you like take a minor cheap shot at the local team that's losing that they're in love with, or even just state the obvious. I thought it was obvious. I used a boxing analogy. I don't think we can go toe-to-toe with these guys. Remember Hearns Hagler? It's considered one of the greatest. You probably don't. It was considered one of the greatest first rounds in boxing history. By most people, it's the very best. 2 middleweights. They met. They went toe-to-toe exchanging blows for a full 3 minutes. Hagler ended up stopping Hearns in the third round, but that goes down as one of the greatest rounds. And that's the way it seems like we're trying to skate and go back and forth. I don't think we can skate. We're good. I just don't think we can skate with them, and that what we should be doing. Now, again, it's harder when X out and Brodeen's out, and they're two of our better defensive players, but more of a defensive game and kind of just wait for them to make a mistake. I don't think we can outskate and outshoot them offensively. They're, at least from what I've seen, again, I've only watched the Lanch play 2 games now, but they just seem to be, I think offensively and defensively, aren't they like top 3 in offensive and defensive efficiency? They're just a well-rounded club, and their goaltender, he was fine. That's the same cat that played the first game, right?
Yeah,
they didn't replace their goaltender after giving up 6 goals. And Tennessee, you were, go ahead, hit the, can you hit one of the horns? You said you would not have switched goaltenders. Now, whether that would have made a difference or not, I don't know.
It's always hard to prove the other side of it, yeah.
But the first 2 goals were, especially the first one, the very first shot of the game, he gives up.
I think the first and the third.
Yeah, the second one, there was nothing you could do. Nobody could, even I couldn't have stopped that in the halcyon days of my boot hockey. My boot hockey halcyon days. Can you look up the word halcyon to make sure I've used it correctly? Have you ever heard the word before? Halcyon. Halcyon days. I hope I didn't say something I'm not supposed to say on the radio.
Halcyon.
Halcyon. What does it say? No, was I not supposed to
I don't know if I have the proper, I don't even know if there is a definition for this. All it says is a benzodiazepine used as a sleeping drug and as an anxiolytic.
Yeah, that's not it. There's a different
Halcyon.
There's a different definition somewhere. You're sure that now that changes everything? That's what we need on Wheel of Top.
Unless it's a different spelling.
Maybe I spelled it incorrectly. Well, now you got me. This is, I have to find out. Let's see. Halcyon refers to a past time that was idyllically calm, peaceful, prosperous, or happy. It's commonly used to describe halcyon days, representing carefree, joyous, or serene periods, often in retrospect. The term originates from Greek mythology regarding a bird that calmed the sea waves. I calm the airwaves here on the fan. These are the halcyon days. Why was I bringing up halcyon days? Whatever the reason was, that's what I was trying to say. It's calming. Our halcyon days with the Wild, I think, might be done, but more on that later. We will take a deeper dive. I want to get the Jolly Green Giants take on what happened last night at what's the name of their stadium? Ball Arena. Ball Arena.
They had a ball,
which is weird because you would think it would be Puck Arena, right? Someone was so mad at my analysis. He had a good line. He said something to the effect of, "You wouldn't even if you had something about that. I wouldn't know what to do with a hockey puck. I would probably try to eat it." And it does kind of look like a chocolate eclair.
Well, it looks like if you ever have those ding dong.
Yes, that's what it looks like.
Hostess.
That's better than a chocolate eclair. It looks like a ding dong from Hostess. And I am kind of a ding dong. So we'll break. We'll come back. As we go to break, Tennessee will have a keyword for us, and it's brought to you by our friends at BigDeck.com.
The fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword media at KFAN.com now for a shot at winning. That keyword is media. Enter now at KFAN.com. Want to be at the next big game or concert? Well, we're giving away tickets to the Yalla Music Festival, Santana, Guns N' Roses, Chris Stapleton, and plenty more. Enter today at KFAN.com. Keyword contest.
Couple 13-14 past Common Man program. I'm Common. He's 10B. Time now for a peek at the purple, and it's brought to you by Affordable Electric, your old home specialist. The month of May is Electrical Safety Month, and Affordable Electric is here to remind you safety starts at home or your business or both. Their licensed electricians are ready to help with safety inspections, surge protection, safety inspections, and surge protection, panel upgrades, and so much more, because even a small issue can lead to big problems. Whether your space is old or new or somewhere in between, Affordable Electric will make sure your electrical system is safe, efficient, and up to code. Call or text 612-331-VOLT, 612-331-VOLT, or reach out online at affordable-electric.com, affordable-electric.com, and Affordable Electric is shockingly affordable. You know, Alec Lewis does it. He didn't pay me for this. He didn't ask me to, verbally slap him on the back. He does a really good job covering the Vikings for The Athletic. He does a piece today. And it's analysis from The Athletic. What I'm hearing about the Vikings' search for a new general manager. This was at 5:00 this morning. Do you think he was burning the midnight oil? I might be cheap shotting him. It was released at 5:00. Is that what? Who was it? Schefter that would always have tweets go out at 2:00, and you can just time that on your phone or whatever, your delivery device, right? I want this to go out at 2, so it looks
schedule
like
it, yeah.
So it looks like I'm really, really, like, for instance, my phone will often say a new update is available, and you can schedule it for any time you want. So when do I schedule it, Timothy? In the middle of the night when I don't need my phone. So do you think Alex Lewis was working on this from like midnight until 5:00 and then hit send and go, now I can go to bed? Or do you think
maybe his editor was?
Maybe his editor was.
Yeah.
Or do you think it's possible it was completed at about 7 or 8 o'clock last night? Maybe even 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and said, I'll just make it look like I'm even working harder than I really am.
It's like when I used to work for Maple Grove Park and Rec.
Yes.
And I had to drag baseball fields over a span of 8 hours, but really, like, my work only took me about 5 hours.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Do you wish you were still at that job instead of this one right now?
I wish I had stayed there.
You should have stayed there.
Yeah.
Think about that.
But the amount of time it took me to finish all my work was about 5 hours.
Right.
But I couldn't let my boss know that, because then they would find 3 hours more work for me to do.
Right.
So I would just be screwing around, and then anytime I could see the white truck coming in the distance, I would act like I'm working, even though I wasn't working.
Well, what a model employee you are. I've passed this advice along to other to people at times in my life. Like, if you're working at an office job, right? And now, I don't think I know I brought this up on the radio. I don't think anybody has a clipboard anymore, but it's always nice to have a piece of paper or a clipboard or something. And when you're moving around the office, be walking fast and looking at your clipboard or your phone. So then, like, let's say Abbott looks and he needs you to do something for him. He needs somebody to do something. But he sees you tend to be walking with a real purpose, energetic, with a furrowed brow, like you've got something important to take care of, and he's not going to interrupt you and say, hey, Tenby, I know you're busy, but could you do this for me? He's going to look for the meat sauce or the common man that's leaned up against the wall, kind of just twiddling his thumbs. Hey, you don't look busy. Got something for you. So as long as you continue to look busy, so that is exactly what you were doing, and I highly recommend that. Here's another one for you. Never be good at something you don't like to do. Right? Because if you're good at something you don't like to do, they're going to say, you're really good at that. We want you to do more of that. And then you're bitter, you're sullen, you're withdrawn. So don't always look busy so they don't hand you more work, and never be good at something that you don't like to do. Alec Lewis is very good at covering the Vikings, though. What he says here, and I just kind of skimmed it because I just stumbled across it not too long ago. I still, here, I'll read from the Vikings remain in the early stages of this process. They hired a search firm. That search firm, Turnkey ZRG, has met with agents and league executives to discuss potential candidates. Has also considered ideas about the optimal structure within the front office. So they're coming in. It sounds like they're just going to raise everything. They're just they have been given the job of finding a new GM and how the front office operates. That's the way I interpret that. It has also considered ideas about the optimal structure within that front office. who should be in charge. Should it be a GM or football, president of football operations? And then how much will the coach have to say? Again, I think that's why, and Alex addresses it here with one of his where he says, why is there such a high degree of internal support for Brzezinski? And I think, Tenneby, you may have nailed it. And I don't want to say that Brzezinski is just a yes man to O'Connell. Yes, Kevin, Rob Brzezinski, have you any wool? Yes, Kevin, 3 bags full. I don't think that's his job, but I think because they've worked in the organization together for a while, and when you've got a guy that was coach of the year a couple of years ago, it's sort of like E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. And so I think he would get a lot of cooperation, the two of them working together. You bring in a general manager from outside the organization, all of a sudden he comes in and goes, I love you, Kevin. You're a good coach, but I'm going to keep an eye on you. You haven't won a playoff game in a couple of years, and drafts haven't gone too good, and I know you've been part of it. I thought you were a quarterback whisperer. So now you got some guy questioning what you do, right? And if your seat isn't hot, it certainly will become at least lukewarm now at this point, right? So I think that's probably why there is a optimal amount of support for Brzezinski. So I think you nailed it. Do you continue to believe that? Because I think that has, and it's probably they do, and that's not to say they don't think Rob's not competent and he's not capable of doing the job. I'm sure he is. He's been around the organization forever. He's been in the draft room. He watches how the organization has been run. He knows what the job of a general manager entails. He knows the duties and responsibilities. So he certainly could. However, if you're turnkey, DRG, FBI, CIA, BBC, BB King, Doris Day, dig it. If you just come to the conclusion, you got the guy right in your own room. He's been in your building the whole time. It should be Rob Brzezinski. And then Ziggy's going to go storied franchise, National Football League. Why did we hire you? We knew that ourselves. So does that make sense? I mean, and again, we don't know for sure where this is going, but it's like anytime someone is hired to do a job, like let's say there would be a new program director here. Even if the station is the best all sports radio station in the country, and right now it is, he would still feel like, well, I've got to make some change. I've got to put my thumbprint on it. So it'll be interesting to see which direction they go.
They did today. Tom Pelissero reported that the Vikings requested an interview with Bills assistant general manager Terrence Gray for their GM job. So now, do you think turnkey DRG recommended that, or do you think Ziggy or Sir Mark Wolf was just thumbing through media guys and looking through the Buffalo Bill media because, hey, assistant general manager, franchise has been pretty good. Maybe we ought to go in that direction. Peek at the Purple, brought to you by Affordable Electric. For all of your electrical needs, affordable-electric.com. More controversial Vikings news, Wild and Wolves talk. Other side. Oh, and don't forget, Rock Talk with Brian Oak at 1:15. All of that and so much more on the program on the Fan. I love this one. Get ready for great women's soccer when Minnesota Aurora returns for their home opener on May 21st at 7 p.m. at TCO Stadium in Eagan. Tickets for all games are on sale now at mnaurora.com. You can sign up to win tickets to the home opener right now on the contest page at KFAN.com.
I like this little chime, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
What's the name of this one again?
Electromagnetism.
I like electromagnetism. It's sort of what I'm doing to pitch for Affordable Electric. It's like electrical magnetism. People are drawn to me. Tenneby, long before you were born, there was a band that I know you're familiar with them. They were called the Beatles, the Fab Four. You had Ringo Starr, George Harrison, Paul McCartney, John Lennon. 2 of the 4 have passed away. By
the way, how many other bands out there do you know the name of every person in that band? Because I feel like there's not a lot for me. I know all the Beatles. Yeah,
there's not another band I could tell you each and every name. I could come close on some. I mean, I could especially many of these bands have had so many iterations. Like if you Google a band and then look at all the different people that have played for that band, because sometimes a bass player will leave and another bass player will come, then that bass player will leave and another will come, and that was so it'd be like 8 bass players, 26 different drummers, 4 different lead guitarists, and they go on and on. But you're right, the Beatles, and they only had 4. Pete Best was the original drummer, and they booted him from the group, and then Billy Preston played on a number of Beatles songs, and he was kind of sometimes considered the 5th Beatle, though George Martin was also a 5th Beatle. Stu Sutcliffe played with them for a while. So there are several others. But Lennon and McCartney wrote the vast majority of Beatles songs, not only the lyrics, but the music. And there was a time when fans of the Beatles would try to interpret what their lyrics were all about because they had a lot of what you might consider nonsensical lyrics. Like, for instance, Tennessee, tell me if you can understand what this means. She's well acquainted with the touch of the velvet hand, like a lizard on a window pane. The man in the crowd with the multicolored mirrors on his hobnail boots, lying with his eyes while his hands are busy working overtime, a soap impression of his wife, which he ate and donated to the National Trust.
Huh?
Doesn't even make any sense, right?
It sounds like one of those medallion hunts where there's like 12 different clues within it.
Well,
you're trying to figure out what the meaning is behind each of those.
It's funny you should say that because this song is called Medallion Hunt. So when they told John Lennon about it, he said, really? He said, well, let him try to figure this one out. And that's when he wrote, I Am the Walrus, okay, which is even more nonsensical. But the reason I bring this up, it's a long wind-up to say, Tennessee, I believe you're the John Lennon of montages. And what I want to ask you is, normally when one of the local teams lose, it's Dido. Today it was Tailspin, and I realize why it was, you like to mix it up, and they are in a Tailspin, but are you not on the bandwagon anymore? Because, Dido is, I will not give up on this ship. I'm trying to get inside of the Montage Master's head, and I think the listeners are as well. Where are you at with the Wild right now?
They're just on a little bit of a tailspin.
Okay.
It's 2 games in a row. I guess you could call it competitive, but there's clearly one team was the better team. It's not like you left these 2 games where you outplayed them and they just happen to, out goaltend you to that game, right? Or one bad mistake ruins the game for you. They just, they've been kind of, I don't want to say thoroughly outplayed, but, last night was better for the Wild, but they just look outclassed so far. And that can change. It's a 7-game series. There's a lot, maybe we get Eriksson Ek back for game 3. But so far through 2, it doesn't look great.
Do you agree?
And they don't look like their person, they're not playing the same personality we saw them play against Dallas. Same structure.
Is that because it's just not there, or does that have a lot to do with Colorado?
A lot to do with Colorado, a lot to do with, 2 significant guys out of our lineup. You once made the comment that Matt Zuccarello was the most valuable player on the team, and I think I had him like 7th, and one of the guys I had ahead of him was Joel Eriksson Ek.
Yeah.
And there is not a Joel Eriksson Ek replacement on this team. There wasn't really a Matt Zuccarello replacement either, a guy who could play his style and bring what he brings. But, especially when you're on the road and you're not getting the matchups you want, we just don't have a good defensive forward to put out on the ice when McKinnon's on the ice. He's one of the best players in the world. Our top 2 player in the world. And right now a lot of their matchups has been McKinnon against Kaprizov, Zuccarello, and Hartman. And let's face it, it's like that's not a great defensive line. And they want to play offense. And sometimes they want to cheat on defense to play offense. And that doesn't work against, we call him Mac Dog. Nate Dogg. Do
you think Micheletti thinks Nate Dogg is one of the top 5 players in the history of the NHL? Because he thinks Hughes is. And if McKinnon is, you think he's the 2nd best player in the league?
I'd say him and Connor McDavid are 1 and 2. Yeah.
I think Connor McDavid is overrated. Did anything I said, I mentioned I tweeted out about not getting into a slugfest and trying to skate up and down the ice with this team. Is there any truth to that, or do you think I'm just babbling and just rambling? I kind of like to think, I grew up watching hockey and was a pretty good boot hockey goaltender. It just seems like it just seems like Colorado skates at a different level.
They do.
And so,
Well, I mean, I've seen others, some of them might reside in the coroner's office. They talk about, man, we got to get physical and we got to hit them and beat them around. Well, you got to catch them first.
right.
It's easier said than done against teams that are a little bit slower. When they are super speedy, you got to get to them. If you can't get to them in time to hit them, then you can't hit them. Otherwise, you're going to be in the penalty box all day long.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest issues, and it's mind-boggling to me, is just how inefficient we've been getting out of our own zone, and a lot of that goes on defensemen that. Yeah, you can give credit to Colorado's speed and their aggressiveness, but we're still just, Jake Middleton, I think, has played himself out of a bottom or a top 4 defensive role. I would move him out, and put him in the third pairing for Game 3, even though you're missing a Brodin.
Yeah.
Just they can't break out the puck. So it's not all just, hey, they're so good on the rush and the speed game, and we got to clog that up. But the Wild do need to do a better job, specifically that top line of once you don't have the puck, you do have to think a little more defensive-minded. And that's hard for offensive-minded players.
Correct. To
have to hit that switch a little bit. But you can't be putting yourself in a position where you're giving up odd man rush 3-on-2s, 4-on-3s, even 5-on-4s because we don't pick up the last guy coming into the zone. They're hard enough to defend 2-on-2 and 3-on-3. We don't need to give them an advantage going up the ice.
Wild lose game 1, 9-6 when Gary Anderson is wide right. The coach decides to make a goalie change. You said I probably would have stuck with Wallstead. What are your thoughts about Gus Bus's performance last night? The first goal was pretty weak. The second one, like we talked about, I don't think anybody could have stopped that. Third was kind of... How much of the blame goes on Gus Bus, and what do we do now?
A little bit of blame goes to Gus Bus. No, he hadn't played in a couple weeks, so it's a hard spot for him to get thrown into. You hadn't played in 3 weeks. You're going against the number 1, basically, offensive team in the league, early in a playoff series. And here, just jump right into it. You haven't seen game action. Go try to handle the top offensive team. The first one was bad. Now, we misplayed that as well. Zuccarello misplayed that in the offensive zone. Ryan Hartman unnecessarily picked up the wrong guy. That left Natchez open. Now Spurgeon has a poor gap because Spurgeon wasn't supposed to play him. And that being said, your goalie still has to be able to stop that play when there's breakdowns in front. And that was just kind of a weak little backhander from Natchez, and it slides through his equipment. First shot. And it's just mentally and psychologically also the effect that has on your team. If your team doesn't have confidence in your goalie, if your goalie's not exuding confidence, that does have an impact on how they play and how they feel. And I just thought that was a really bad start. Put them in an immediate hole, gives up a goal in the second shot, and yes, that's a tough one to have on the Landeskog.
Seconds later.
You're right. Yeah. Kaprizov tied it right after that.
Yeah.
But second shot of the game for Colorado goes in on the power play. And I thought the third goal to give them the 3-1 lead, not as bad as the first goal, but still one that you need to have in a Stanley Cup playoff match. So I'd say 2 of those goals were softies, 2 of them not much you can do on. But as I said previously, you have to have great goaltending. You can't have okay goaltending against Colorado Avalanche. You can't have, even John Hines after the game, I think, he was asked about the decision to go with Gus and basically, he was fine. He gave us a chance to win. You can't be fine. And I wouldn't agree that last night was fine, but even if he was fine, fine is not good enough against Colorado Avalanche. You need to have great goaltending, and I've never had the confidence in Gustafsson to provide that. I think he's just a solid, okay goalie, and I do think there's that potential in Wallstead. He still might be too young, but I do think it'll come out of him at some point.
And they'll bring it's a no-brainer.
He's got to come back in for it. I would be shocked. And I would almost say it's a fireable offense if Wallsted's not playing in Game 3.
And that's a Hines decision, right? Just Guerin or any other assistant coaches?
Ultimately, it should be on Hines, but I'm sure he gets consulting from I'm sure he's talking to assistant coaches. He's talking to the goalie coach. I'm sure Bill Guerin gives his opinion.
Yeah. Do you think the owner does? He doesn't, does he?
I hope he doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not how a organization should be run.
Yeah, he seems like he's a fan, but I don't think he'd be the guy that'd be calling down from the owner's box going, I think you ought to change goalies. He just, I don't know him, but just in, the quotes I've seen from him, he doesn't seem.
He's probably given input on a trade or a signing before.
The penalty kill was an issue last year, and this year it appears to be no different. Why is it? And why is it not different?
I don't know. Part of it is at least last night the goaltending wasn't great. I don't know. It's very frustrating that every year we're having the same conversation about the penalty kill.
Yeah,
and they made some moves. Obviously having Brody and Eric's neck out doesn't help, but they made some moves before the trade deadline that was supposed to help your penalty kill with McCarron and Nick Foligno. I don't know. They get exposed every time. It might be our smallish defenseman we typically throw out there. I can't explain it. But we had lots of conversations previewing the Colorado series, and I made a comment that Colorado's power play scares me. And a lot of listeners came back with the stats of, they were bottom 5 power play in the league during the regular season. And I said, I don't care about the stats. They have 2 of the greatest hockey players in the world. And Natchez is a good player. He had 100 points this year. Brock Nelson is a do-it-all Swiss Army knife type of center who can be a good net front presence. And Taves is a good offensive defenseman. So
who?
Toews, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't know how they had such a poor power play in the regular season, but I will never feel comfortable with those guys on the ice with an extra guy. And so far that has come to fruition in the first 2 games of the series because they had 2 last night. They had basically 2 in game 1 because the one was just a couple seconds after the power play expired. But they've basically scored 4 power play goals in this series. And it's not good enough.
Tenna, would you consider putting Hartman between Boldy and Johansson?
And what, put Yurov with Kaprizov and Zuccarello? Hopefully Eriksson Ek is back Saturday, and who even if he is, who knows what you're getting out of him. I think as long as Eriksson Ek's out, we're in trouble because we were already, I wouldn't say strong at the center position up the middle. This is not a team that you want to be weak in the middle against because they've got McKinnon, they've got Brock Nelson, they have Kadri, they have 3 legit centers. And right now we basically have 0 without Eriksson Ek. You just have a bunch of centers that are slotted in the wrong spot.
Rich in Fargo says the song was Come Together, not I Am the Walrus. And I responded, that is incorrect. And then he comes back with, okay, but it isn't. No, Rich, it is. I'm looking at it right now. John Lennon, amused by a student's letter about analyzing the Beatles. John Lennon, amused by a student's letter about analyzing lyrics, wrote, I am the walrus, with intentionally confusing, hold on, I got to finish reading it. I am the walrus with intentionally confusing and meaningless lyrics. I love when people try to, tell the host of Rock Talk that he doesn't, especially the Beatles, my favorite band of all time, that I'm incorrect.
Yeah,
he didn't write "Come Together." He may have wrote "Come Together." There's very odd lyrics, but that's not the song that he wrote in response. It was "I Am the Walrus." The story's been told hundreds of times. Look at any documentary, read anything. I'm well versed on the Beatles. So.
Just the title of the song alone would lead you to believe that would be the song more likely to be created. And
it was coming off of the Sgt. Pepper's album. See, so that's when people were really starting to dig into it. That's when, and then it's like, I just leave Beatles history to the professionals. So, Rich, anytime you'd like to say I was wrong, comment, and you were right, because the song he wrote in response to the people wondering how they were interpreting the lyrics was, I am the walrus, goo goo gachoo. I had to get that in. Because I am the only major market radio talk show host in the country that will admit when he's wrong.
Also, your bit about a sports team should name themselves the Walruses.
Yes.
I love that name.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's brilliant.
Especially for a hockey team, you play I'm the Walrus as your goal song after a goal scored.
Here's a, hold on. This was a really good one. Just think. On Saturday, Tee to Green is getting bumped in favor of a show that's going to spend 2 hours covering a team down 3-0, gives up an average of 7 goals a game. Well, they won't be down 3-0 quite because the next game is Saturday.
They play Saturday night, yeah. But that's the other thing, though, is we're doing another episode of Beyond the Pond on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that night, because the Wild game's at 8:30, they're doing an extended Wild pregame at 7. So you're basically getting a Beyond the Pond at 7 o'clock anyway. It's double Beyond the Pond, bonus Beyond the Pond.
You know what it is? It's the program director, but I'm in charge here. This is me. It's just, there's no reason for it just being stubborn. I mean, do you remember the story when Greg Swedberg, who was once the senior vice president of programming here, heard the Common Man doing Vikings Fan Line. And Doug Westerman was the program director at the time, and he went to Doug and he said, Doug, I was listening to Viking Fan Line, and it doesn't sound like Common enjoys doing that show very much. And Doug responded, well, he doesn't. He goes, well, then why are you making him do it? And that was it. So it's like, if you were listening to Tee to Green this Saturday, you go, didn't sound like Common was enjoying it. Why is that? Well, because he got bumped. Well, why did you bump him? Bump the Beyond the Pond. I've only put in 35 years here. It's just sometimes you're supposed to try to make your main guys really happy, and it's not asking for much. But I'm okay with it now. I pouted yesterday. I pouted, and whined and complained about it. I was going to get Anselmo involved, but he doesn't work here anymore. So, and he doesn't care at this point. But I kind of get the feeling this will be the last Tee to Green that will be preempted for Beyond the Pond this year. You know what? We can build this thing together, standing strong forever. On Monday, we're going to be playing. Nothing's going to stop us now.
I thought you were about to say this is going to be the last year of Tee to Green.
No. Probably a couple more. I mean, my contract runs through. Should I do what a lot of radio guys do and announce my retirement 3 years ahead of time? I'm going to retire in 3 years. I plan to retire at the end when my contract expires, unless they decide to. They might sever ties. Oh my gosh! But my contract runs through December of 2028. Who do you think of the full-time hosts? The three guys in the morning, PA, Barrero, and me. Who do you think is most likely to retire first?
Of all the hosts?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, you.
Right, because PA's never going to quit.
Well, the morning show's not.
And the morning show, because they're so young.
Barrero won't.
He'll never.
He'll be doing his job. He's going to be like Sid. He's going to be doing the job till he dies.
Yeah.
So, PA...
Unless
I never know what he's thinking.
Well, he might decide to become the next Billy Graham.
Sure. He might just do a career change.
Hot August night with the leaves hanging down and the grass on the ground running, smelling sweet. Pitch a ragged tent where there ain't no trees, and the gospel grew, telling you and me, and stop, brothers love take, brothers love traveling salvation show. He might start a traveling salvation show. I could see him going town to town, up and down the dial, with a ragged tent and preaching the gospel. I think that's where his heart is really at.
See, what I've never understood with you is when I think of retirement, for me, it's I'm going to not work and I'm going to go golf every day. Well, you already have that. You're already basically retired. You're doing. What you're doing in retirement, you're already doing. It's not like you put work other than noon to 3. You're not putting in a lot of other work. You're already semi-retired.
And if I did quit, what would I do between noon and 3? What all old people do? I would go play bingo somewhere and then take a nap, right? And I don't want to do that.
Well, that sounds nice.
Well, it does, but it doesn't pay as well. Because if you win the bingo, what are you going to get? It's a meat raffle ticket? You're just not going to make much money. When we return, it'll be time for 5-3-4-10 with the T's.
Yeah, will the Wolves be howling tonight in San Antonio? And they're getting someone back, too.